He has been an iconoclast in every movement that has existed. Buy him a gin, you'll hear all about it. Joe Geier.
The empire tells us that we're in a war on terrorism. That's a generational conflict. Some of that sounds a little loony. The loony part is the war on terrorism. The rational part is the generational conflict. They can't really tell you what the war is about, but they have told you that we are involved in a generational conflict, this empire. What it's about, as we have said for some time, is about oil. But it is a rational, strategic decision that they made some years back, that we were at peak oil or close to it, and that the rise of what they call BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, the emerging world, means that oil production has to double in the next 20 years, and that instead of oil shocks, we are involved in a permanent oil crisis. What do you do about that? A country that's dependent upon that oil. They decided to take what was that weakness and turn it into an imperialist strategic advantage. To make the rest of the world dependent upon the United States and the American military as the guardian of world oil supply and of the channels of distribution for oil. That the entire world would be dependent not on the oil producers, but on the American military as guardian and protector of the world oil supply. That this has become the key strategic aim of American imperialism for this period, to use its military superpower for economic and political leverage with the ability to turn off oil on potential rivals like China down the road if necessary. It's why this is a generational conflict, why the United States will not walk away from the Middle East. It will not walk away from Iraq. It will not walk away from 2/3 of world oil supply. It's a rational imperialist plan. So far it's led to a disaster, because only a really sophisticated, refined, educated American imperialist mentality as a part of this strategic plan could come up with the idea that invasion, conquest, occupation, and recolonization would be greeted by Arabs as liberation and American democracy. You really need sophisticated American mentality, imperialist mentality for that. The resistance of the Iraqi people has thrown the empire into crisis. It has destabilized the entire Middle East. It has opened up the possibility of deepening revolt throughout Latin America. It has destroyed the American Rumsfeld's military plan, and it has drained the American army and its ability to intervene throughout the world. And finally now, it is opening up the space, the political space in this country to organize a generational struggle against empire. The right wing has been dominant in this country for over 30 years. They bear the effects of this failure. They're being held responsible to it, but it opens up a political space here that gives us the possibility of convincing or attempting to convince the American people of some ideas. One is that no nation that oppresses another nation can be free. It is not just Abu Ghraib, and Guantanamo and extreme renditions and kidnapping people off the street and holding them without charges and without legal rights. It is the Patriot Act and spying here on everyone that they want to. That is not publicized as much, but it is the attempt to, hold down civil liberties in this country. It is the attempts that are going on to cut the standard of living in this country, to be able to pay for a generation of empire building and empire control, of occupations, to cut health benefits and pension benefits, to make sure that wages don't go up and that taxes remain firmly fixed on the working class. It is also a revival of racism here inside the United States, against Arab Americans, against immigrants, and also against New Orleans, which this government doesn't seem to have the money to be able 2 years afterwards to do anything about the suffering there, because it happens to be a black majority city. It can be abandoned so far as this empire is concerned. It is a part of the revival of racism that is going on in this country. But it's also something else. You have the election of a Congress that is a referendum on the war that then votes to fund the war. And what does that do? It helps us to explain to people that really imperialism and democracy are contradictions in terms. That imperialism means you cannot vote on the interests of the American ruling class to invade countries and occupy them. They lie about it. They lie about it because you are the people who are supposed to pay for that. Your kids are supposed to be killed and maimed doing it and so on. So yes, it is not just the lie about weapons of mass destruction. It is all the lies about what the nature of this system is and what its invasions are all about. And why voting does not really change the nature of American imperialist strategic advantages or plans and so on. You were never told about them. You don't get to vote on them. As I say, one thing about this defeat, defeat clarifies the mind. It really does. There's an enormous shift going on among a lot of people in this country who were prepared to put up with it when the empire was winning. Defeat has opened them up to an understanding that this is not necessarily a good thing, and they are looking for explanations in regards to it. And one of the first things that we have to be able to say is the enemy is here at home. The Iraqi people are not our enemy. The Syrian people aren't. The Iranians aren't. The Venezuelans aren't. The Bolivians aren't. We do not say that anyone who crosses American imperialism is our enemy. We are allied with those people in building a resistance to empire. This opening that has occurred here is an opening for us to build a resistance to empire here in the empire itself. Some of the people here in this room are really the first members of that resistance, the first fighters against empire. We have here people who were soldiers for the empire who have become soldiers against empire. We have here in this room people who will be playing a role in reviving an anti-war movement that stands on a principled basis of support of the resistance, of the right of every nation to self-determination, of immediate withdrawal, of no reliance upon the two parties who support American imperialism, and so on. We have the opportunity to start that process, to build that resistance, but we are a long way from a resistance that can bring down this empire. We should not fool ourselves. We're at the start of a process. We're at the start of a process that means we have to build a resistance that fights wherever it can against the empire, its plans, and ties it up with the struggle of people here at home, that the war at home is a part of the war abroad, that both of them are against the same enemy that controls the empire abroad and controls working people here at home. We're a long way from that, but that is what we have to set ourselves out to do. To win an anti-war movement, to a conception that it is part of an international struggle against the empire, and it is part of the class struggle here at home against the empire. That we will be successful when they understand that, yes, we are allied with the Venezuelans and the Iraqis and the Iranians and so on, and that they are also prepared to raise on their banner the idea that animates us: working people of all countries unite. You have only your chains to lose. You have a world to win.